You may be seated. Good morning, Shabbat Shalom. Very glad to be able to be together. So let me tell you about my week. So let's start with yesterday and kind of work backwards. So I was very fortunate, because I had been president of the Michigan Board of Rabbis, to be invited with the meeting that you may have heard about with the Secretary of Homeland Security, Secretary Mayorkas, who's actually a Cuban Jew. And I was able to be at this meeting. There were about 15 or 20 of us, and just an amazing amount of security. Our Senator Gary Peters, who is involved with Homeland Security, brought Secretary Mayorkas in to talk to religious leaders about how to make things more secure. Let me explain why some people are kind of laughing at this. So the Homeland Security is offering increased grants, and there's a whole process. I'm just talking about how do you go through this process and what do we actually need. And I was thinking, well, that was this is a good start. I hope we don't need anything soon. So at 3 o'clock yesterday, there's a phone call to the synagogue office. Now, the good thing about Friday at 3 o'clock is that there's not necessarily a lot going on in the synagogue itself. People are getting ready for Shabbat. They think they're finishing their sermons. And had this call come in Wednesday, before Purim, it really would have been beyond terrifying, beyond disastrous. 3 o'clock, someone calls in and says that they planted a device on the grounds of the synagogue, and they really hate Jewish people and black people, because everyone speculates. You tend to put in your mind who you hate the most, and you assume that that's the person who did it. So we don't know exactly who did it. Apparently made the same phone call to a synagogue in Illinois as well, and there's sort of a nationwide alert system. Building was evacuated. We are blessed with a wonderful executive director who knew what to do and took the steps, and Farmington Hills Police came in and they did a sweep, and the Federation Security Department was alerted, and Homeland Security, it's okay. And it seems to have been just a hoax from someone out of town who wanted to terrorize and to disrupt. And I love the fact that we're here today. I love the fact that we showed up anyway, because what terrorists tried to do is to close things down. And what being Jewish is about being open, about not living in fear and not letting the bad guys win. So let me tell you something else about this week that I thought was really moving. Purim was fantastic. It was the first time in 2 years the community had really been together. And it was beautiful to celebrate and to see people in costumes and have the Hamantash. And Purim of 2020 was the last time the community was really all together. And it was beautiful that we could share this moment again. But earlier, we'd had 156 students from Bloomfield Hills Middle School, their 7th grade. And we've been connected with them for a long time, and they came and they visited, and we gave them a tour of the synagogue. But one of the things that was really moving for me is that the opening the ark and to show them the eternal light. And it's such a powerful message about who we are as a people, is the idea of opening, of bringing warmth, like Eliana talked about bringing connection, about opening ourselves up to the world. All openings are vulnerabilities. Whenever you're in a fight, you're taught to close down, to cover yourself. But we open instead, and our strength is in that opening. And that strength and that sense of bringing warmth and light to the world comes from the earliest part in our tradition. We have we're reading the book of Leviticus now, Sefer Vayikra, and it's the center of the book, and it talks about the obligations of the priesthood, but it's knowledge that's available to everyone. It's not that the priesthood have the knowledge to themselves, but every single person has that knowledge. Every person has the ability to participate in the lives of our people. And this is such a tremendous revolution that it's an openness to those who want to be a part, are more than welcome to be a part. The original commandment was to Aaron and his sons, and it says, Tzavet Aharon ve'et banav lemor zot Torat ha'olah. Tell Aaron and his sons, this is the ritual of the burnt offering, but that the light of the offering is to go on for all time. Well, the altar is gone, the holy temple is gone, but we're still here. We're the ones who still have the light. We're the ones who try to bring that light into the world, to bring that sense of openness. And Eliana picked a really beautiful time to become bat mitzvah. You may not have realized this, but this week was the 100th anniversary of the very first bat mitzvah. It was March 17th. Judith Kaplan Eisenstein, March 17th of 1922, was the very first Jewish woman to officially become bat mitzvah in a public way. And her dad was Mordechai Kaplan, who was one of the great Jewish thinkers of all time. He invented the JCC. He invented the Young Israel movement. He developed Reconstructionism. They called the JCC the shul with the pool, because it was a way of combining religiosity and physicality to bring Jews back into not just the spiritual and religious world, but really into the physical one as well. But Mordechai Kaplan was, in fact, a founder of the Young Israel movement in America. And he had a daughter who was very interested in Judaism, and she said, why not me? So the very first bat mitzvah was that she said the Torah blessings, and then she read out of the Chumash. She read out of the book. She didn't actually read out of the Torah, but that began an opening. It's really only since the 1980s or so that it's really been ubiquitous among Jewish women. But the event in March 17th of 1922 began an opening. It began an expansion. It said that more and more need to be included in the lives of our people in a way to participate, because that's how we continue to keep that fire going. That's how we keep that eternal light going. One of the things that I showed the middle school students was this Sefer Torah that's here in the corner. This was rescued, as many of you know, from the time of the Holocaust. Hitler had wanted to create a museum of an extinct people. He was going to murder all the Jews and then display these items. And they were all brought to what was Czechoslovakia at the time. And because Hitler, though he was far more successful than we would have wished, was not completely successful. And this Torah is a reminder of the destruction that happens when we become closed to each other, but it's in a sanctuary that reminds us of the power of being open to each other, of making room for all kinds of people, regardless of who they are. So we got a call at 3 o'clock yesterday that said, essentially, we want you to go away, we want you to close down, we want you to disappear. And what we chose instead today was to show up, to stay open, and to keep that light going. And I know that we will continue to do that for many generations to come. We do not live in fear. We live in power, we live in compassion, we live in courage, and we live in hope. Shabbat Shalom.